the bottom line for Ryan Day, and he would tell you this, is that he made some mistakes during the course of that game. I think his staff made some mistakes during the course of that game. And as a head coach, your team is a reflection of you. And he did the right thing like any great leader would do. And he stood in front of the media and he took those bullets. And he's always going to do that. And he's going to do that. Why? Because he is an elite coach and he's a great human being. I just want to say publicly, there's only a few guys that I would unequivocally send my sons to play for. Ryan Day's one of them. I've also said that about Kyle Whittingham. I would say that about Pat Fitzgerald. These guys are amazing human beings, okay? And they run their programs with integrity and class, and Ryan's one of those guys. And I think he's going to be just fine, and I'll tell you why in a moment. But first, let's also put this into perspective. If you're an Ohio State fan and all you've known, right, for a couple of decades is that, like, we beat Michigan. Well, that's fine, but you have to understand that your memory of beating Michigan is probably tainted. You think that it was just always Michigan, but it wasn't. You see, Ohio State is still an elite program. They're not slipping, falling. They just have been joined. And that wasn't the case for the last 2 decades. Michigan has not been very good for a couple of decades. All right, in the grand scheme of things here. Now, I know that Jim has had some good teams here and there. There was a good Brady Hoke team in there. But I'm just talking about historically. Numbers back me up on this now. From 2006, the 1-2 game in the shoe, to last year's Michigan win, 2021, there were 14 seasons of football. Do you know how many times Michigan in those 14 seasons finished inside the top 10? 0. Do you know how many times they finished unranked? 7. Half the time. We're talking some really rough years for Michigan during that period. And that's the period in which Ohio State was just beaten up on the Wolverines. Okay? And now all of a sudden Buckeye fans think it's a birthright. Well, we just beat Michigan. Well, yeah, you were beaten up on an average program for a number of years. Now, Michigan has built itself back to the point where it has joined you in an elite place. So guess what? Now it's not a birthright, it's a rivalry. It's actually a rivalry now. And it wasn't for a number of years. Urban Meyer went 7-0, and he's a great coach, and he's got national championships to prove it, but he was beating a far worse program in Michigan than what now Ryan Day has to compete with now that Jim Harbaugh has rebuilt them into the Harbaugh family football program. This is an elite program. I just told you, the only program with a better record of the last 26 games in college football is Georgia. Michigan's 24-2. Okay, so like Ohio State's not going anywhere. They're still elite. They're still going to recruit elite players. Now they just have to adjust. Just as Michigan adjusts to face Ohio State, now Ohio State has to adjust just to face Michigan. It's going to be tough, and now it's a rivalry. Ryan Day is a phenomenal football player. He can make the adjustments necessary to go out and change this tune and maybe win one of these games in the next couple of years. He's 45-5 in 50 games as the Buckeye head coach. 45-5. Like, these yahoos that want to sit there and like, he's no good. No good? He's 45-5. 4 of his 5 losses are to top 5 teams. I mean, I got to be honest, like, I don't get it. They've been a top 11 program in every one of his first 50 games as the head coach. You know how many times that's happened in the history of the sport? 0. It's never happened before. No one's enjoyed that much success. Top 11, every one of his first 50 games as the head coach of the Buckeyes. The bottom line is this. Over the last 23 games, they are 21-2 with 2 losses to Michigan. So they don't have a giant program problem. They have a Michigan problem. And I know that you guys conflate the two because you think they're one and the same, but they're not. They're not. In fact, Ohio State might end up in the playoff. Ohio State might end up playing Michigan for the national championship. This is a Michigan issue. You see, like I said, you're top shelf, Ohio State. You are top shelf. You're not slipping. You're not falling. You're not broken on the ground. You've just been joined. You've just been joined. This is a program that's very proud. There's no doubt. And I believe that Ryan Day understands where he needs to get better. And then now he's going to have to figure out how to go and do that.